Welcome to Islay Whisky Academy's online whisky tasting for our virtual Fèis Islay 2021. And that's Fèis Islay, for those of you that wonder how to say it, because it's F-E-I-S and the E has got a grav on it, so that means it's an elongated vowel. So Fèis Islay, and in the past we used to have a short and acute on the E at the end of Islay, which makes you know that it's a small E. So the long E at the first, Fèis Islay, short at the end. So there you are. Anyway, we're going to taste 3 drams from different parts of the island. We're going to, first of all, we're going to Kilchoman on the far western side, so there's nothing between there but 3,000 miles of sea to America. Then we're crossing over the Rins Peninsula to Laphroaig, to a kind of cult dram that I'm sure you're all familiar with, the Octomore 10. And then we're going to go to the other side of the island to the big 3, one of the distilleries and one of the drams that sometimes people feel epitomises Islay, which is your Laphroaig with a very strong peaty character. So without further ado, just take a dram, have a taste of your dram, and then what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how to drink a dram. Now I know that most of you, all of you, will know fine how to drink a dram, but I'm just going to remind you, because sometimes we forget how to get the most out of our dram. So, the first thing that you want to do, you need to engage as many of your senses as you can. So, first of all, we look at the dram. No, that's not true. First of all, we should listen. So when we pour our dram into the glass, we should listen to the sound it makes, because the different viscosities of drams, different creaminess of drams, we can hear the difference when they pour into the glass. So it's like, think about like if you're stirring sauce in a pot, you know, the different viscosity of it. Well, whisky's the same, and so your ear can hear the difference. We can tell the difference between a hot drink and a cold drink being poured, even if we're not in the same room. Our brains are able to translate that. So a good way to practice, you know, you've got to practice to learn the sound in your dram. So there you are, that's a good reason for practicing. So the first thing that you do is you listen to the sound of pouring into the glass, right, okay? And another thing you can do is you kind of, I don't want to spill any, you can shake it around in your glass, okay? Because you can, how it chinks and clinks in the glass. Over time you'll learn a wee bit about the oiliness and the creaminess of your dram. So then you would look at the colour. So I mean, all Islay drams are calibre 1, so they're all going to be clear, good quality drams. But then you can look at the colour. This is to give you clues. So these are not definite or things that always happen. They're just things that you can be aware of, and it's wee clues to help you sort of analyse your dram. So you're setting up an expectation so that when you're doing blind tastings, you can amaze your friends by being so knowledgeable. Because what you can do is, by the colour of a dram, you can set up an understanding of what the flavours are going to be like. So now this is a kind of, it's a pale, well no, it's not pale, it's a sunshiny yellow, okay? So this is a 100% Islay 8th edition from Kilchoman. So there are actually some sherry casks have been married with the bourbon casks in this. So you've got it's a slightly deeper yellow hue. The other 100% Islas that you get from Kilchoman, well, apart from the Fesh one I think is very similar makeup to this one. But the 100% Islas from Kilchoman are usually only bourbon casks, not got sherry casks in it. So you've already learned what to expect from the dram, okay? Because if you've got only bourbon, you're going to have notes of toffee, vanilla, honey, these kind of notes. But if you've got a bit of a sherry cask added, then you're bringing in fruity notes, dried fruity notes. From the bourbon cask, you can also maybe think about, you might have more pears and apples and that kind of tasting note. But when you bring in the sherry cask, because it's like a red, that's your russety, your sherry, your plummy, raisiny, dried fruit, red fruit notes are coming in. So in the Kilchoman, you've got a wee bit of that, and then you've got the bourbon cask. So you can tell a lot from the colour. Your expectation can be set up. Then you look at the teardrops or the legs. So if you just swirl your glass around like that, and you can see how the glass is coated here. So that's the oiliness, that's the viscosity of your dram. So teardrops are like teardrops and legs. It's like with people. So if it's fast legs, it's usually going to be a younger dram, because faster legs, younger people, older legs, an older dram. That's just a wee rule of thumb. So you can see how they coat the glass, so that already lets you start to think about the age of your dram. Another thing is when you pour your dram into the glass, round the top here, if you get lots of little air bubbles going round like that, that's usually an indication that it's going to have a higher alcohol content. So if you've got single cask releases, they're bottled, cask strength usually, so they're going to have bubbles around them. So that's just another thing. This one doesn't really. This one is Anthony's. I think it's 50 ABV. I wonder where I put my specs. Can't remember. I'm sure it's 50 ABV. Anyway, then what you do is sniff the top notes, the atmosphere. So you would do that with your nose about a finger's width away, but don't keep your finger there. You're not going to be like this. So you've got your nose about this, because your dram is divided into sections. The same way that the cuts come off the spirit still, you've got your top, your heart, and the foundation of your dram. So this is lovely Kilchoman spirit, fresh, salty. And what to do is you can nose it with your mouth closed, but you can also do it with quick short bursts with your mouth open. And you do the top notes first, and then you put your nose into the glass. So you've got your nose in the heart of the dram. I know that it's a terrible rigmarole. You're probably dying to take a dram, but this is actually quite a good way to build up to your dram, and also for people that think they don't like peated whiskey, this is a good way to acclimatise. So you're acclimatising your senses. So then you take a sip, but this is the thing that so many people do. They take a sip. Sip is no use. You have to take a good mouthful, because what you have to do is you have to be able to taste it, and you have to be able to run it along your tongue, and then you need to coat your mouth with it so that all your flavour receptors inside your mouth can taste it. Because what happens is, if you just take a sip of a dram, the alcohol, like, it'll go up your nose, make you sneeze and cough, and you won't actually taste it because you've only taken a wee sip, and then you go, ooh, and think you don't like it. Whereas if you take quite a good mouthful, and the other thing is, hold it in your mouth for a second of the time, a second for each year that you think age it is. So I think that this Kilchoman 2008 is maybe about an 8-year-old or something like that. So you would hold it in your mouth for 8 seconds, because the alcohol and your anticipation makes your saliva glands come active, so you're slightly diluting the dram as you're holding it in your mouth and experiencing the taste of it. Then when you and be aware of the dram in your mouth, so think to yourself, is this a thin liquid? Is this a liquid that is does it taste like silk? Does it feel like silk? Is it thin, or is it a wee bit thicker, so it's like, feels like satin, because satin is a heavier material? Or is it velvety? But sometimes a cloth that is velvety, it's a wee bit rough. So sometimes you can get an old velvety dram that's been in a sherry cask or something, and it's got a lot of tannins. So you've got this drying, but it's also very smooth. I hate to say smooth, but okay. So sláinte mhath for my first dram. You've probably had loads by now already. Lovely, very silky. It's got a nice sharp burn to the front because it's 50% ABV. You've got the peat at the back, but because this is Islay barley, and it's 100% Islay, so that means that in Kilchoman they grew the barley, they harvested it, they peated it, they distilled it, and they matured it all in Islay. So normally the dram of 100% Islay is softer, and it's also got a lowered ppm. ppm is parts per million phenol. As you know, Kilchoman's phenol level is probably about, I can't remember now, is it 40 or 25, can't remember. But this one, because it's home peated, it's a lot lowered, because they do it themselves. They would need to have fires going for weeks probably to get the same ppm as the malting. So the Islay barley is a lot less ppm than his other drams. So this one is quite interesting because it's got the mix of the marriage of some bourbon casks and some sherry casks, because usually the 100% Islay that they produce as a bourbon cask. So that's your lovely Kilchoman. Just some things to think about. So we're going to move on now to our neighbour across the Rins, and this is our Octomore 10. Now, I just love Octomore. So Octomore is from Bruichladdich. It's a brand name and a style of whisky that Bruichladdich produce. So Bruichladdich produce Bruichladdich whisky, which is unpeated. They produce Port Charlotte, which is 50 ppm, and they produce Octomore, which is off the scale, and it's just delicious. But because they have such a light creamy liquid at Bruichladdich, their stills are high, and because the liquid is light and creamy, and it's not like say Ardbeg or Lagavulin whisky, which is smaller stills and a lot heavier spirit. So for example, Ardbeg have Supernova, which is 100% ppm, 100 ppm, okay? And this this Octomore 10 is a lot higher than that. This is 167, I think. Yeah, 167, okay. So I absolutely love this. But see Supernova, I'm like that, oh my God, getting a peat. Although I like it, it's a bit much. I think that's my cat wanting to go out. I'll just let him out if you don't mind. He doesn't like the whiskey. Oh dear. Well, maybe he would if I put some in his dish. Okay, so we're going to crack on with the Octomore. So this is very interesting because it's Scottish barley, okay. So Anthony's was Islay barley from Kilchoman. This is Scottish barley. And this ties in with the next dram because this has been in some port casks, some cognac casks, some, what else is it? What else is in the Octomore? Hold on till we see. Port casks, cognac casks, bourbon casks, oh yes, and virgin oak. So virgin oak casks mean that there's not been anything in it before it. So quite often that will give it a silky feel, and also you get a lot of the wood extract from the cask then. So now you can see this one, it's more kind of orangey than the Kilchoman. The Kilchoman was like a paler colour. This one's slightly more umber, more golden yellow, a heavier gold, like a more burnished gold. So you could say that that would be maybe from the port casks or the cognac casks, maybe making it more like that. Also, Bruichladdich are very creamy, beautiful liquid. So this one will have more viscosity. So it's got a different sound. Oh, this one is not so chink. No, it's not so thin, the noise. This is a heavier liquid. Also, Bruichladdich are famous for a thing. Well, Mr. McEwen, John McEwen made it famous. The band of gold, which floats upon the top of the dram, and that's the kind of the band. You can see it there. Sometimes it's better, I think, to see it in the actual, the unpeated ones. But what Jim does is he puts his finger in the glass. Don't think mine will reach. And you have, and the oils just hang there, okay? Because they're going to stay on. But if you put your finger right through, down into the liquid, the droplet, you see it there, it'll drop off a lot quicker. I'm going to get it before it does. So that's the band of gold. Bruichladdich is famous for the band of gold. Legs, well, this is 10 years old, not that much older than the Kilchoman. Let me see, but because it's a more creamier whisky, it's got a different, the legs behave differently. You can see them, it's more like, maybe more like curtains coating the glass, like that. Okay, we're going to nose it. Lovely, it's got lovely sharp notes, but it's also got a kind of sourness, a milkiness, a creaminess to it. There's a lot going on with the Octomore. I mean, you don't need to go through this rigmarole all the time. You can just drink the dram, and you can put ice in it. You know, you don't need to have glasses like this either. But I like to use the Glencairn because it suits me. It's practical. If you've got 6 glasses in a tasting, it's not going to fall over. You can get copitas like this one. They're lovely, a lot more glamorous, you know, more refined looking. But you know, if you've got 6 drams about you in a tasting, it's more likely maybe to get knocked over. Maybe not at the beginning, but maybe towards the end. So I find that form and function of this shape of Glencairn is absolutely practical. I mean, everybody's got these glamorous, tall stemmed nosing glasses now. You know, they're quite bulbous, and then they've got a wee circle in the top. Now that's fine for nosing. I call these working glasses, But there's no way that I would sit at night drinking a dram out of that. I'm going to drink it out of something like that, because I can't, you know, I want to relax and enjoy my dram. I use the Glencairns when I want to explore a dram and learn about it. And once I've done that, then I drink from that, because I don't like all the time, you know, the wee mouth bit, because I like a good size of dram. So, Sláinte, we'll try this one now. It's a lot more. It's a lot stronger than the 100% Islay. You can, but the peat wouldn't knock you out, even though it's 167 ppm. And you can feel the body of the dram is stronger and more punchier in your mouth, but you can feel it a lot longer down into your chest. It's coming down to about here. It's a lovely dram. I really love it. So, you know, you can, there's lots of different Octomores. They make ones that are Octomore from Octomore. It's like Anthony, he's got his Kilchoman 100% Islay. Well, they do an Octomore where it's barley from Islay as well, from Octomore farm, James Brown's farm. So that's two drams that are different, but they're very connected. And also there's one is on one side of the peninsula of the Rins and one is on the other side. So we're going to move on now to the other side of the island, to our big hitter, the one they say you either love it or you hate it. So this is our Laphroaig Cartridge. Now Cartridge means friendship, and Laphroaig have got the biggest whisky group in the world, the Friends of Laphroaig, and that's when you get your square foot. I'm giving away too much. Your square foot of Laphroaig that belongs to you. Now this is true. Some people have got married on one. A foot in and a foot in. Honestly, they've got married. And I heard a story that somebody actually got their ashes scattered on it, but I don't know if that's true. My story is that I was looking after a band of Norwegians, and they brought a sapling with them from their own country, taking good care of it, wrapped it in a plastic bag. It was in the newspaper, the wee roots were kept damp, and the chairman of the group was the special baby that was going to be planted on their square foot. So that's fine. We're getting ready to go the day that we were going to Laphroaig, and I said, now where's your sapling? Because I heard nothing but this blooming sapling for all the last 4 years that they were in the van with me. Oh, the sapling. They'd got tired and emotional the night before, and they'd mislaid the sapling. I said, never mind, I'll sort it for you. So myself and a friend, we went, and while they were visiting our distilleries, we managed to track down a little sapling in Islay for them. Okay, so I wrapped it carefully in cotton wool and the plastic bag and all the rest of it. Big label on it, do not lose. Gave it to the chairman, because the next day they were going to Laphroaig for their grand tour, and then they were going to do this big ceremony that I had to video of them all around it, and then they were going to sing the national anthem or something like that, or Scotland the Brave or something. So that was fine. So the next day we get to Laphroaig, they have a lovely tour, we come out, I'm like that, right, okay, we're going to do, where's your sapling? Lost the blooming sapling again. I was like, right, that's it, finish, you're planting nothing. Go and sing your song and that's the end of it. So that's what happened. Goodness knows where these poor saplings are. Probably growing in Laphroaig somewhere. Anyway, I digress. So, this dram that we've got here from Laphroaig Cartridge is this is the port and wine cask. So remember we had the Octomore had been in port casks and cognac casks and all the rest of it. So this is the wee tie-in with the Laphroaig. So the Laphroaig is, what's the ABV? Oh, it's 52, so it's quite high. So we were 50, what were we of the ABV of that one? Oh, 56.8, and then we're back down to 50. That's good ABVs. So you can see the complete difference here. You know, see the colour, because it's been in the port and the wine casks. See how it's all, you know, it's umber, it's burnished, like burnished mahogany, like dark orange. Because as soon as you start going to the orange colour spectrum, you know that it's been in a port cask, a wine cask, a red fruit cask. Whereas when it's yellow, pale yellow, gold, usually, you can say, ah, well, that's probably only been in a bourbon cask. I mean, I have seen really pale drams that they've been in. They've had contact with sherry butts, but they were old, you know, so they're not got much colour left to give. So your Laphroaig, this one is younger. I think, what age will it be? I don't know. It's probably below 10 years, this one. Because when I was tasting it earlier, I love it, but the layering is, the flavours come in layers more, right? So in your Octomore, it's more, wait a minute, I'm getting my tasting notes. So the Laphroaig was more layered, which usually implies to one that it's a younger whisky, because older whiskies, the flavours are more integrated. So it's a lot easier to do tasting notes on a younger dram, because it's layer, and you can easily pick them out. So you can see the line round like that. This one's got slight fringing, teardrops very far apart. It's not got uniform legs on this one at all. And let's smell it. Lovely peat straight away. Completely different to the Octomore. Sweet and juicy. I'm not saying the Octomore's not, but it's lovely. Right. Brown sugar, toast and honey. That's good tasting notes for Laphroaig. Right, wait and we'll get a wee mouthful or a big mouthful. Oh, and the other thing is, when you put it into your mouth, you can roll it around your mouth like as though you're doing mouthwash, but don't be so vigorous. You know, be like Richard Patterson. If you know Richard Patterson, he was the master and blender and ambassador for Jura and Dalmore. And Richard is ridiculous. You can watch him on YouTube. He's called The Nose. So he does, and he puts it and he goes like this, It's just ridiculous. You don't need to be like that, okay? But swirl it around your mouth a wee bit so that you're coating your gums and your tongue and everything, so that you're getting an understanding, a feel for the mouth feel of it, and also to try and get more flavour notes out of it. So, slam shot. Very nice. Very, so this has been in bourbon casks, and I think it might have been in, what was it, in quarter casks as well, because it's got a silkiness, a smoothness to it, which usually means that it's been in smaller casks, because it kind of makes it mature faster and makes the liquid more silky. Wait till I see if it's only been in the port and wine, or if it's finished. Wait till I see, hold on. Ah yes, okay, yep, Second fill, ruby port, barriques. So barriques are tall, skinny ones. A sherry butt is fatter. A barrique is taller and skinnier, like myself. So it's been in ex-bourbon barrels and finished in red wine casks. Yeah. And they say it's got pink peppercorns. Well, that's very interesting because I did tasting notes for Laphroaig the other day, and I got loads of pink peppercorn, but I've never had them from Laphroaig. So I'm presuming that they say that because it was in the wine and the port casks. So I get oranges, hint of patty, because I always get that from Laphroaig. Chocolate, juicy black cherries, fresh leaves of spearmint, cocoa and Ovaltine. Well, that's your maltiness of your Laphroaig. Laphroaig is juicy and peaty, whereas, for instance, Laphroaig is like ashy and peaty. There's a difference between them. There's a minerality which can come from the wine casks, because wine casks can sometimes impart that because they have a double fermentation in the wine cask, and it can give a minerality. Pink bubblegum. Cold stewed prunes. That sounds terrible, but it's not. No, it's a lovely dram as well. So, there you have it. Now, you don't need to have these exact drams, because I hope the way that I talked you through it, it shows you how you can break down your dram and think about your dram differently. So you know, you could do that with your festival bottles or any bottles that you've got. So thank you for joining me in the Islay Whisky Academy introductory tasting for Virtual Fish Islay 2021. Slán